Hello everyone, and welcome back to Harlan is in Danger. I am your host, Tom, and today I am joined by my good friend and co-host, Mitch.
I'm also here.
There you go. I know it's weird for me to make you say
I didn't want to pause.
but that's your line now. In these videos, you say that. We are back. We're doing another story card costing video, this time for Carnevale of Horrors. As with all of these videos, there's going to be some spoilers for this side scenario, so if you haven't played it, go ahead and wait till next week, I guess.
Go do that.
Or go just play it right now. We'll pause, and then we'll be here. That's the very, magic of recording, is you can stop us at any time. I'm babbling. Sorry. What was the other thing I was going to say? What's my other caveat? Oh, right. These are within the context of the progression challenge, so we are giving them a price for VP-wise, but that's also understanding that we've had to have earned them throughout the progression challenge already.
Right.
So they might be less expensive than would be if they were just player cards you could include at any time.
Yeah, they do have that cost. But I mean, I don't know. You also have to pay the cost to get to this scenario and get them.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, let's dive in. We've got a.
You're getting tired of me seeding our conversation for my arguments for making. All right, so we'll start with the Bauta. This is I'm going to read the card so we have an understanding of it. This is a 1-cost asset, has a fist and a wild icon, has the item and mask traits, and has the text: limit 1 mask in play. After Bauta enters play, gain 2 resources, and as a reaction when you initiate a non-fist test. Is it combat? Is that the actual word? It's a fist. Discard it and use fist for this test instead of the skill indicated. Okay. So this card, if you have a resource, this card gets you 2 resources. So playing this card is comparable to taking the gain a resource action.
Whoa.
With the added benefit of later just being able to punch a clue, I guess, or punch a frozen in fear test or something like that, which is not nothing.
Right.
So pros is it if you're taking this, you probably have a pretty high. You got your fists up already, and you're ready to punch things. And this just lets you do that instead of having to think with your brain or remember the books you've read. That's something, right? And it does give you a money back, which is also something. The cons are, this doesn't do very much.
Yeah, it's just such a benign kind of effect. I mean, it's virtually a guts that you can play for something that becomes a guts later. Or, I mean, not a guts, overpower.
Yeah.
So you basically spend a resource in an action just so that you can get your resource back. And then you can use it as an overpower later.
Yeah, I mean,
committing it to a test.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this one is going to be one of the ones that I'm going to try and convince you to say we can abandon our it has to cost an XP and say this one can cost 0, because I don't know. I might put this in a level 0 deck if I wanted to if I was playing someone that had really low willpower but really high combat, I guess Tony Morgan or something, or maybe Skids if I was really trying to build Skids into a fighting monster guy.
He needs to use his agility though, because he only has 3, so it would probably be worse.
Maybe I have Beat Cops and Ace of Swords and I don't know.
I mean, but that's requiring so many other cards just to get going. I mean, I'm with you. I think we should do kind of. I mean, I don't want to do this too often, but I think it should cost you an XP to put it into the card pool, just 1, and then from that point on, you can just include it into level 0 decks. It's really not that strong. It's basically, like I said, it's pretty much an overpower and a gain a resource. But it's it costs you an action to do that.
Yeah.
So there's still I would probably still take overpowers over this because this is like, yeah, if I'm playing, Nathaniel or somebody with like 5 combat, then sure, I can use this on like some willpower treachery, and then it's pretty strong. But in a lot of cases, it's going to be like, why wouldn't I also just take overpower because that will draw me a card, which is better than a resource in most cases.
Mm-hmm.
And then it doesn't cost me an action because it's helping me do something I already want to be doing. Like this, I have to play it first, and then I get that overpower trigger. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's level 0. It's not very good.
Okay.
Okay.
So, but we are saying like a VP to put it into your card pool.
VP to get into the card pool, yeah. So once you clear the scenario, I mean, for that campaign, obviously you get it from the scenario, so you have it. But then once the campaign ends and it's time to buy cards, story cards, this will cost you 1. And then it'll go into your card pool, and then you'll just have it for the rest of your progression challenge.
All right. Yeah, I can come around with that. So let's pause the recording. We'll write up our thoughts, and then we'll go to the next.
Well, what else did you want to do to it?
I don't know. Okay, and we're back. So here's our thoughts. We didn't warm on this card at all when we were off camera. The pros are it's like kind of free because it pays you back for itself, but that's maybe also an indicator of how good it is. It rewards you for stacking your combat up, so if you're someone who wants to punch real high, you can punch even higher something you're not supposed to punch. Save me, I'm struggling.
Well, it's basically a card that was like 0 cost, and you play it and it said gain a resource, and you're like, all right.
Yeah, that's right. That's
it doesn't do anything.
It doesn't really do anything. That is kind of like its cons. It's boring. It's just boring. Like... It's really just inefficient to play. And we did
just take emergency cache and overpower. I mean, I guess you could take this if you're like really tight for deck slots. Maybe there's something there. It's like instead of emergency cache and overpower, you just take one of these.
Yeah.
But I mean, more power to you. I don't feel like you're breaking the game if you do that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, I don't know. It does. I think that the treachery protection is kind of relevant. Like, if you just want to punch yourself instead of be afraid, that's I guess something, right? Like, it's like I'll take off the. There's like a thematic win here, I guess. I'm talking myself into this, where you're like, I don't know. There's like I'm wearing a mask. I'll take off the mask. I'm secretly a punchy guy.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Tony Morgan, like that's pretty good. But also, like, you could just pay 2 XP and get Savant and get virtually the same effect, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. So we settled on the cost, just the 1 VP to add it to the pool, and then 0 after that. I think that is fair. Yeah, that's fine. Let's move on.
Mighty generous of us.
Let's move on to a slightly more fun mask to talk about. No, it's the worst one. All right, I'm going to read this one. Right. So the Gilded Volto is a 1-cost asset that commits for a foot, wings, and a wild. It has the item and mask traits. Limit 1 mask in play. Reaction after it enters play. Treat the next asset you play this turn as if it has fast. Reaction, when you initiate a non-foot test, discard it and use foot for this instead of the skill indicated.
So Bob loves this card.
Does Bob love this? I guess, okay, that you're right. There's something there because it is an item. So Bob can play it and then give something that's not an item fast.
Yes.
Does Bob love this card?
Bob, doesn't he have like 2 agility though?
I don't remember. I've played Bob exactly once, and he's great, but I never used his foot.
Yeah. Well, so the main problem I think that you illuminated with this card when we were talking about it before is that so you play it, right, which costs you an action, and then it says when it enters play, you treat the next asset you play this turn as if it has fast. So basically, it gives you an action to play another asset, but it has to be done in the same turn.
Yeah, it's like a worse.
It's
fence.
Not fast. It's it's kind of like bad fence. And fence is already not very good.
Yeah. Because it is just like also it's basically like okay or it maybe like Joey the Rat's a better comparison. Like it's a one-time Joey the Rat.
Yeah.
So like you pay 1 extra resource and an action, but Joey the Rat has a better place because you can play him earlier, and then like get the fast when you need it. This you have to
Right.
play literally. Is it the next asset you play? But it's this turn. It's not like the next asset you play. That would be interesting,
Yeah.
right? Like
Right.
it's like okay, I like the thing that I can kind of see is like you're at a location that's like, hey, your ally assets cost two or more, or something like that. It
Okay.
costs like two more to play an item or an ally. No, not an item because that wouldn't work. It costs two more to play an ally here, but in the room next
Okay.
to you, there's a big bad scary dude.
Oh, I see.
So
So you
you
play
play
this, then
this,
you move
move
in.
in, and then you can play that ally asset without paying the two cost and just paying one cost instead. It's so bad. It's not worth it.
Well, yeah, because you already invest. Like that's the thing. You spent the resource, you played the card, you put the asset on the table, and then the card tells you, okay, what you just did, do it again, and you're like, and to actually get the benefit, and it's like, but I just did this. Like, why
Yeah.
do I have to do it again?
Why isn't like and honestly like if it would be better if this was fast. Like if just the Gilded
Yeah, if
Volto
it
was
just said
fast.
fast.
If it
Yeah,
just said fast and then like when you initiate a non foot test, discard it to use foot instead. That's a better card than what we have here.
right. You would just use it for investigators with high foot, somebody
Yeah.
like Skids or Rita or something like that, and then you're just like, oh, this is again for to get a clue or to, punch a treachery in the nose, something like that.
Yeah. This is
Which
worse
it
than the
still
other
does do
mask.
that.
This is worse than the one we just talked about. I can't believe it. I like was we were finishing talking about that mask and I was like, oh god, that's the worst mask, and this one's even worse.
This one's definitely going to be the worst, I think. It's pretty bad. It doesn't do anything. It's just like, I mean, cool art, but
Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm trying to think of like what is a. It's like I guess you could pay one to play a card and then later get a clue. Like that's, I guess, fine. But
yeah, I mean, that's not bad. I mean, that alone is fine. Like I said, I don't think the effect is bad. It's just we're hyper obsessing over the reaction ability when you put it into play because that's the thing that sets it apart from the others of its type. I mean,
wait,
yeah, this is a different
I have
skill,
a
but
thought. I have a thought. Sleight of hand.
okay.
What does sleight of hand do with the taboo? Does it have to take up a hand slot? I think it might. Damn it. Because like if you could sleight of hand this out, that's fast, and then you play the next card fast, and then at the end of your turn it comes back to your hand.
No, actually, I think that does work because sleight of hand isn't that 0 to 3 the levels?
Is
Isn't that
it
what it's
is it
interested in?
zero to three, or does it have to take up a hand slot? What's the current taboo? I mean, like also you could just not play with the taboo, I suppose. Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Just a 0 to 3 item asset from play into your hand. Technically, this doesn't have a level, so if you're not playing with the
uh,
taboo
okay, so if you're not playing taboo, this does work really well.
with sleight of hand, because you can sleight of hand it out for the same cost to play something else fast that isn't an item. This is still this is jumping through a lot of hopes to not get a very good card, but I guess it's fine. Like I guess yeah, maybe that's a little bit better though, because like you're adding it if you're sleight of hand out this, you need to get an ally out, but you're engaged with something or something. You sleight of hand this out, play the ally fast, and then I don't know, you get it back in your hand and have to deal with it later. I think
Same treatment as the last one.
I think so. I like honestly. Yeah, I think there needs to be a cost to put it into the pool. I don't know why I'm attached to that, but
Let's do it.
all right, we're gonna we'll be back. Just give us a second. Just give it. Oh God, it's okay. We're back. Hi, welcome back. So we wrote up our thoughts, and I think we just got more frustrated with this card as we were writing up our thoughts. So our pros is it has the item trait, so maybe Bob will use it. It might set up some jank, I guess. like,
Yep.
maybe there's like like I feel like there's a combo here that I'm just not really seeing, or that no one's ever seen.
I don't think anyone will ever see that combo, but I do feel like the secondary ability, like in a Rita deck, that's not bad.
Yeah.
I mean it's bad. Let's be clear. But like it's the third copy of manual dexterity in your deck, I suppose.
Yeah, or unexpected courage or whatever. Like you're
Or I
using.
guess yeah, unexpected courage because you can use it to get through like a treachery or to grab a clue or something like
Yeah,
that. So
yeah. Uh,
yeah,
for cons, we asked ourselves, is this even useful? And we said that it costs some money and a deck slot, which is when you know that the cons are. It's just not a very good card. Its pros just aren't really worth it. Like, there's nothing like inherently bad about it, I guess, if you're stacking your agility, but it's just like you have to have like no agility payoff cards, which I guess agility isn't this like at this point in the card pool too. I guess like agility wasn't the payoff slot, it wasn't like the do stuff
yeah.
button. So I guess it is
Mhm.
kind of. But again, it's just like this would be more useful if it was fast, right? Like,
Yeah, it would be. But honestly, it's the kind of thing where I might have taken it in my Leo deck. That could have been helpful. Oh wait a minute, no, sorry.
no,
This is to let you use foot. So I take that back. I would not have
no,
done that. I would have
this,
done
this is would be
anything
bad
else.
in Leo. So yeah,
Never mind. I'm burnt trying to try to solve this card. It's bad. Moving on.
yeah. We were having it cost one to put it in the pool and then zero after, just like the other one. Let's talk about a
Yeah.
mask that's better. The Medico della Peste. So this is a one cost asset that commits for a willpower and a wild icon. Has the item and mask traits. Limit one mask in play. After it enters play, you heal a damage or a horror, and when you initiate a non willpower test, discard it to use willpower for this test instead of the skill indicated. I actually like this one. This one's okay. Like,
It's all right.
I don't know. It's kind of like a one off of like your Wither or Sixth Sense is like the second ability, and like the first ability is just heal a little bit, which sometimes is very important.
Hmm.
But like one resource
Yeah.
to heal one damage or horror is actually not bad, right? Like,
Yeah. It's not. It's not like the worst card ever. It's kind of like a. It's almost like a smoking pipe or a painkillers kind of thing
mm-hmm.
because I don't know. Yeah, like it's all right. It's just all right. I'm not gonna give it that much praise though. Like I see, like this card will do something for you, whereas
Yeah,
like the other one was, I don't know what it was trying to do, and the other one, and then the first one gave you a resource. Like, what do you do?
which you
Like
can do
this
on
is an
your own.
effect. Yeah, you can do on your own. That's the whole point. Like this one, that's an effect. Like healing damage and horror is not something you can just inherently do.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, if you're Carolyn, this is also pretty good because her willpower isn't terrible. You usually want to invest in that, and then she heals a horror and gets her resource back, or she can give it to somebody else.
Yeah,
So, there's things you can do, or like Agnes could get a heal off of it and then use her strong willpower. So, like, there's definitely more investigators I can think of who could actually utilize this card and be like, oh, that wasn't bad. That was
yeah,
pretty good.
yeah,
And like the card itself, I think is kind of, but like as long as you're smart with which deck you put it in, it's gonna do something for you.
yeah.
Not bad.
I think there are like, I think the thing that like this card has that maybe the other two don't really have is like there's a connection. There feels like there could be a connection with a lot of different investigators between the 2
Hmm.
reaction abilities on this card, right?
Yeah.
Like you, if you take this card, you're either a high like willpower guardian or you're a mystic. Mystics tend to take lots of horror, and high willpower guardians tend to take lots of damage. So you use this, you take a damage or a will or a horror off of you, and you're like your downtime, and then you later
Hmm.
get to just get a clue for a brain number, a number
Yeah.
of brain. Um,
Right.
yeah,
The only downside to this is if you're in a situation like if this shows up late, which is when you need it because that's when you've taken a hit,
mm-hmm.
but then you have like an enemy on you or you don't have the actions to play it, then it'll just kind of, I mean, I guess then it's a guts,
Yeah,
you
and
know.
which is like
Which is okay.
not bad. Which is like it's still good. Like I mean, there's nothing wrong with or it's like any other wild icon too. Like
Yeah.
if you don't have this down and you need to just like pitch it to someone else's like intellect test, you can do that, right? Like I mean, all of these cards have that.
Hmm.
But like this one I feel like I would run it hoping for the best case scenario,
Yeah.
which is something I can see, which is like I get to heal a damage and horror, and then later get a clue, or later do an extra damage that I need to,
Right.
or later like get out of a location that has me test agility or something to get out of it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like, yeah, And like, especially if you're a mystic, you're already going to be trying to stack your willpower because that's so much part of the mystic identity still at this point
Yeah.
in the card pool. Um, so it's a lot easier to find that slot for it than I think the other two have.
So cost wise,
I would price this one at one, just at one VP. I think I can hear you arguing that it should be the same as the other two masks, but I think this one is at least one VP better.
this card is better than the other two, but I don't think I would ever spend a BP for it. Because, like, you know, if you take something like, there's like Emergency Aid or Second Wind, like, there are cards that do what this is doing, and I don't spend VP for them, and I wouldn't spend XP for those cards. So, like, or like a Meditative Trance. It's like this is like a little better than that,
Yeah,
but it's not by like a lot. And like Healing One, like that can be the difference between life and death, but
it's
and like
frequently
I
not.
can't use it. It's frequently not, and it's also like I can't heal it off like an ally or just any investigator. It has to be me. So it's just to give you like a little bit of a cushion. So yeah, I don't know. It's okay. It's like I said, it's better than the other two because it's like functional, but I don't feel like it's worth an XP.
I feel like we should have put Gilded Volto last. I feel like it's definitely coloring my perception of all these other ones because I'm even like thinking back to like the Baoto, and I'm like, technically Guardians need money.
Yeah, I mean, I did think of that. Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
I don't know. I okay. So you're thinking same cost as the other two?
Yeah, I don't think you would really.
Yeah.
It's I see what you're saying. Like the healing is definitely better because that is doing a thing, but I feel like there's also going to be a number of scenarios where I play it.
What a high bench to clear.
Exactly. There's going to be instances where I play this, I heal off like one damage or one horror, and I'm like, whew, that was close, and then I don't take another damage or horror for the rest of the scenario, and I'm like, why did I need to do that? I guess I didn't, right? So if I'm evaluating it on just the secondary effect, then it's equally as good as the other two.
I actually disagree. I think that the secondary effect, especially in a Mystic, is going to be better. Like, because Mystics are already not caring about any of their other stats. So they're less likely to be running other skills that like boost their their stats. So they're more susceptible to like having to fail a book test. As someone who plays a Kluver Mystic and has drawn false lead several times, like having the ability to just be like, no, I'm going to use my good number instead. The only number that I care about, right? In Mystic, when that's the only number you actually do care about, is more relevant than I think in like if you're just the fighty guy who also is like, oh yeah, I take some guts to just prepare for that, or I can take like manual dexterity to make sure I can get out of trouble from something, right? I would give this one a slight edge, but I think you can talk me into the same cost as the other ones.
I mean, I agree that it's better than the other two. Like, I'm not gonna argue that. And like, so for the secondary ability, is that being better than the other two? I don't know. I'm not necessarily, because like the first one, like I think that one's more attractive to me. Because like as a guardian, like I work really hard to get my fist up so I can actually kill things.
Sure.
And it costs me a lot of resources and it takes a lot of actions and I have to fight against my deck. And it's just like the game is designed to make Guardians really difficult to play.
Mm-hmm.
And so having like a clutch test that I can just ace seems really nice. Whereas like as a Mystic, like I'm not really worried about those things because I have other ways to do it. Like I'll just play a Drawn to the Flame. Like I'm just gonna use my spell to investigate. Like I don't need to like
maybe that's the other thing too.
Do this kind of convoluted thing and play this card and spend one of my precious resources because they're like resource intensive too. Like yeah, I don't know.
But the other thing too is like so much of Mystic's identity, and we're talking about Mystic because they're the big willpower class, right?
Right.
So they would be the ones that would want to take this. Potentially some off-class Mystics or like Guardians with high willpower are also interested, or Survivors. Like Survivors sometimes have good brain scores too. But like if you're playing a Drawn to the Flame, you have ways to deal with like sure you have ways to deal with like a rotting remains, but what if you get like a grasping hands, right? This actually changes that grasping hands into the rotting remains that you're willing to party with already.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think it's dangerous to be playing a deck that's relying on just one stat, which I mean I do all the time, so I'm
I
preaching
play
to
a
the
lot of
choir.
Mystic. Like I agree.
Like I hear it's better, but it's just like I don't know, like just I don't know, the effect that it's saying. Like the only person I would actually take this card in would be like Agnes, Carolyn, or Calvin,
Mm.
because all of them can actually do something with that healing that's more than just what it says flat out. Or I guess Vincent now because he likes the damage healing.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's so limited. Like I wouldn't take it in many Guardians because it's like it's only going to heal me. It's not going to heal my allies, which is really what I want.
Mm-hmm.
So
I,
yeah,
I don't know. I would take it. I think I'd take it in Daniela as a guardian.
well yeah, okay, I can see that.
Um,
You could get a clue, I guess, with
yeah,
it.
you could get a clue with it, or if you like for some reason needed to evade actually instead of just taking an attack
Well,
to
she can
evade.
auto evade when
But you have to
she
take a hit.
uses her wrench. I guess yeah,
Yeah,
you can heal so to mitigate some
yeah,
of the damage you're
exactly.
taking.
So I mean, like, I don't know. There's cases for that. I think I would potentially take this in Zoe as well, um, because healing's still good and you're engaging a lot, especially if like you're tangoing with deep ones or something. Uh,
Yeah,
I'm running a little bit low on the people I would definitely take this in. I think if this is zero though, like this does start to become more and more like because at worst this is like a third copy of Guts, right? Like, and that's good. That's I think better than a third copy of Overpower Manual Dexterity.
it's not an. I mean, it is. It's just it's not XP. I don't know. We're gonna have to talk it off camera on this one. I
All
think.
right. Well, stay tuned for the split second that it takes me to pause in the recording and come back. Okay. All right, and we're back, and here's what we decided on. I lost the argument ultimately for the cost. It is going to be 1 VP to put in the pool and 0 after, and we'll see if I just keep playing this card in all my level 0 decks. But if I do, hey, that's fine.
Yeah, I think it's narrow enough to be in league with the other two.
Yeah. Yeah, so we went with the pros. We went with like it's got that free healing. It rewards your willpower stacking, and it helps with trauma. That was like something that we didn't really talk about in the video, but like I think I would be
Mm.
less inclined to cut this card as a level 0 card
Right.
because I might take trauma throughout the campaign, and I might just be like, yeah, this is kind of always on in that case. The
Yeah.
cons, we said it will only heal one, and it will only heal you, so it's not really good at helping your team out, and it's not like super impactful. It's just a little slight nudge
Yeah.
of damage or horror mitigation.
You
So
can sort of combo it with a few other investigators, but for the most part, that 1 point of healing. I mean, it could matter, but I think it's going to matter in your Safina deck because she has a lot of she has like physical trauma and low health like
yeah,
already.
yeah,
But like in anyone else, it's sort of like, all right, like that treachery is going to give you 3 damage, and so you're dead either way, kind of thing,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what's next?
All right, next we have Pantalone, which is a 1 cost asset with a book and a question mark on it. It's got the item and mask traits, limit 1 mask in play, reaction after it enters play, draw 2 cards, and reaction when you initiate a non-book test, discard it, use book for this test instead of the skill indicated. This is a better card too. I think
Yeah.
I don't know how I would rank this between the Medico and this one. I don't know which one I would prefer. But I will say that I know this is straight up a jump from the one that we're not going to talk about anymore because it derails our conversation because we still don't understand how it works. And it's also just a jump up from getting 2 resources when it enters play on the Bauta. Because cards are
Yeah.
better than resources. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like a preposterous sketches that
Mm-hmm.
costs you 2 resources and draws you 3 cards. So for 1 resource less, you get 1 card less.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have the restriction of needing a clue on your location. but you also only have one copy in your deck. And then, of course, at the end, you get to use your intellect for a test that you wouldn't otherwise get to.
Yeah. So,
So, yeah.
yeah, one of the things I'm going to say is I've been playing in the Scarlet Keys campaign play along. I've been playing Marie with Eldritch Initiation, which is basically pay one, draw a card for each empty arcane slot you have. So it's
Okay.
at base, it's this, but that's
Okay.
all it does. And this also gives you a reaction to use your book instead of something else, which probably would have been helpful a couple times in that campaign as well. So already I'm thinking it's better than Eldritch Initiation. I'm not trying to break Eldritch Initiation. I just wanted to be able to draw through my deck a little bit faster.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But the fact that this does that and also does something else, like again, it's the same thing with the Medico, where it's like it's a small effect, but it gives you two small effects, which are compoundable. And I think like with the Bauta and the other one, the Gilded Volto, the effects are too small. They're too like the first effect is too small. So
Yeah, I mean the Bauta as effect, I agree, is too small, but at least it gives me money to put towards the inevitable weapon I'm gonna play because it's like, why else would I be taking it if I didn't have high combat? And if I have high combat, I obviously want a weapon. And so it gives me the resource for either that weapon or the ally or something like that. So there's in Guardian, it's decent. Like you could run it, and I think you'd be happy with the results.
yeah.
This is kind of, I think, similar to like it's like it's like Eldritch Initiation or like Preposterous Sketches level 0, where I mean it's a little bit weaker because drawing two, I mean that sounds great, like, oh, I drew two cards, but the first one just replaced this card and that cost you a resource, so it's kind of like you drew one card really.
Yeah, it's the same sort of thing with like, hey, this gives you two resources when you play it, but it costs a resource, so really you're just taking an action to gain a resource. Like this is almost draw a card, but it's
draw
like,
a card.
It's a little bit better because
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it is a little bit better. Like cards do more than resources do as a general rule.
Generally, yes. Yeah, it is a little better.
Yeah. I don't think we're gonna spend too much time on this one. I think it's gonna end up at the same cost as the other two. I do think I like the Medico a little bit more. But I think that since the Medico is not for everyone, this card's probably still gonna just be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and something we try to do is to kind of. It's one thing if we are designing our own cards and we're starting from scratch about what our vision is we want to look like. But it's another when you're just trying to like impose some kind of shift to the current way it's set up, because they don't. The problem with these story cards is if you want to include them, you have to play through the scenario. But what progression does is make it so that you have access to them outside of that. And if we're going to give you access to it, some of these cards like are just really too strong, or they just are going to make. Yeah, exactly. So there has to be some way to kind of rein that in so you can still play with them. But yeah, an XP is kind of the most straightforward way to do it. So it'd probably just be consistent across the board then. They all give you the reaction effect to test the skill you're looking for, and then their interplay effects are all kind of weak, but they're all mildly useful, except for one.
Gilded Volto.
Which is not useful really at all.
As far as we know. Like, there's maybe a way to make it work.
Yeah, maybe someone makes this broken Gilded Veto deck that just destroys scenarios. They're like, look at this.
Sleight of hands, maybe sleight of hand would do something with it. Like I'm not.
Yeah, that's not bad. That isn't a bad combo at all.
Yeah, but we didn't take it, so we won't test that until at least our second play through the progression challenge. So
yeah, the problem with that card and really all of these is that they really need to be like two copies for them to actually start pulling some weight and really be evaluated like as a form of efficiency. Right now, because you only get one, it's like you might get it, or you might just have to get like, you know, a wild icon, or like in this case a perception or unexpected courage.
I'm gonna try something, and I want you to hold your breath for me. Can I add a second copy? Not on the app. Okay. That's an interesting thought though. Like technically in Octagon we can add two copies of these cards. Does that change your evaluation of them at all? If we could add two copies of these cards.
Yes. Yeah, it would. because if I could get 2 copies, then it's basically it's almost like a cantrip to an extent. I mean, it's a little bit costly.
I mean, for all
But
of
then
these, I think.
it allows, yeah, and it allows you to leverage your stat even more.
What if we went
I
back
thought,
and put the rider on these? You can include 2 copies in your deck. I don't know how people would do that unless they had two, like if they're playing physically, unless they had 2 copies of Carnival. But
I don't think we should do that
okay,
because then I think it gets really. I think that makes it even more ambiguous as to like how you would balance it.
I'm just trying. You've given me a 0 cost Medico de la Peste, so I just want to play with it as much as I can. So. All right, we're nixing that. That's fine. All right, fine. I'll just take it as a one of.
At least for now.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Maybe when we revisit it, we'll look at this again and like say, these masks still need a boost. All right. Pause the recording. All right, and we're back, and we actually don't have too much to say about this one. Pros for it are it cantrips, so it replaces itself when you play it, which is pretty good, and it rewards your intellect stacking, and it's kind of always useful. Like it's always kind of good to have 2 more cards. The cons are this is actually a con that applies to every single one of these masks. I think we actually didn't go back and check. Apparently, it's limit
does,
1 mask in play total. So no one else can be wearing a mask if you're wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And we did just like when we realized this, we went and checked the Hemlock Vale article because there's a mask in there as well, just to see what the language there was, and it says limit 1 mask per investigator. So
Right.
Yeah, these are just objectively worse than than those other ones.
Yeah, it's like it's almost as if, if one investigator puts on a mask, then like the rest of the investigators don't know who it is anymore because they're wearing a mask. So then, like, if you all put on a mask, there's no more investigators, and the game is like, oh, well, that game can't function now.
I would love it.
Of the year.
I would love it if there was like a rider for the mask trait that's like you lose all other traits or something like that.
Yeah, you just like evaporate.
You are just now a person in a mask. That's great. Anyway, same cost with the rest of these. I think like honestly, I am, especially with the limit 1 mask and play thing, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm happy for these to cost 0 XP and let's just spend it to add them to the pool. Like, that's fine. That's honestly generous.
It kind of is. The fact that you can only have 1 at a time, that's like very annoying. It's like, oh, I got a mask too. It's like, oh, but I have mine in play. Well, can you use it? Well, I haven't found that
person.
One test yet. I need to wait.
Oh my god. All right. Yeah, I hope that like that. I hope that gets like errated to limit 1 mask per investigator or something like that. I hope that was just like a mistake they made, or there's an errata.
I think it clearly is. I mean, how does that make any sense? Like,
because you each get a mask.
Yeah, you all get one. So what if you all drew masks turn 1 and wanted to play them? You can't do that.
No, not allowed. Only one person
No,
gets to be dressed up. Okay. All right. Well, we got one more card to go into, so let's just go ahead and do that. And it's not a mask. This is Abbess Alegria de Biese, who is the most blessed. Hashtag. She is a 4-cost ass. Don't laugh. She commits for a willpower, a intellect, and a question mark wild symbol-y thingy. She has the ally and believer traits and has as a lightning bolt, exhaust Abbess Alegria de Biese, and move from her location to a connecting location or to her location from a connecting location. Any investigator may trigger this ability. She soaks for 2 and 2, and she takes up the ally slot. I think she's pretty good. And she is the hardest ally or the hardest asset to get from Carnevale of Horrors. You have to rescue all of the revelers and then not die so that one of the revelers dies because you died. As we recently learned.
Sadly, yes.
Sadly. But yeah, I think she is pretty good. I think the 4 cost is really hurting her. Like having to spend 4 to put her into play, and because she's only a 1-off, you only get her as 1 card in your deck. That's pretty limiting to build around her. But like her ability's good. It's fast.
Yeah.
Anyone can use it. It's like a kind of more versatile shortcut too. which
Hmm.
is a pretty good card.
It's kind of actually, the more I think about it, I think it's more in line with Pathfinder
Mm.
because like Pathfinder costs you 1 XP. So if you took that off, then it would cost you 4, let's say, right? 1 XP for 1 resource, that makes sense. And then at that point, what you're comparing is that she also brings in Soak, but then she also occupies an ally slot.
Hmm.
But she also can move you whether or not you're engaged with an enemy. She doesn't care about that.
Yeah.
And then she can also do this thing where other investigators can trigger it. So it's definitely more versatile, more worthwhile
Yeah.
than something like Pathfinder. So, which is saying a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
Pathfinder's been on
Pathfinder's
the
great.
taboo list.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a great card.
yeah. It's hard to. Yeah. I do feel like that 4 cost really hurts her for some reason though, because you have to like find her, and then make sure you're setting aside room to get her on the table. But I could see this being good in virtually any team because again, you don't have to be the one to use it. Your teammate
Yeah.
can use her ability and then jump in and save you.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty interesting.
Yeah. I think she's definitely the most interesting card like in Carnival of Horrors that you can add to your
Yeah.
deck, right? Like there's just a lot of cool and very like obvious and also very not so obvious like things you can do with her. Like yeah, she can just be excuse me. She can just be a pathfinder that just like moves you, zips you in and out of places. But she can also I don't know, like bring people to you and then like you can
Yeah.
take like I don't know if you're playing like a bold investigator, you can take your bold actions. Like you can bring a guy that is engaged with an enemy to you, play your scene of the crime, and then kill that enemy for them. Like it's swell.
Hmm.
um, I don't know, and I think like every deck. I think you're right. Every deck probably would make room for her. Uh, yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't really see one that's like I doesn't want to take her. So
So how would you score her XP
I
wise?
think when we were talking before this, we were like between 2 and 3, and I think like having you bring up Pathfinder and then pointing out how she, even though costs a little bit more, is like more versatile and flexible than Pathfinder, really pushes me even further towards like that 3 VP benchmark.
Yeah, I think I want to settle on 3 as well. Because the other thing about her is she's a 2/2 soak,
Hmm.
which I really like. Lately, I've been, and it could just be that we're in TFA where,
Agony.
if you get hit, yeah, agony, everything has to go be dealt to one asset. But it is really helpful to have assets that soak for both, because then it just gives you, I guess, more flexibility. Like, I mean, there's definitely cases like your Safina right now, having something that just soaks damage would be really good. But also, like your Mystics, you're taking lots of horror in all sorts of ways.
Hmm.
So, like, it's not like it would go to waste to have extra horror soak. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I think 3 XP is, I think that's about fair. That seems about right.
All right. Yeah, I think we actually like we're happy with this. I'm gonna pause the recording. We'll
Yeah.
come back with our actual thingy. What is it? What do I call it? Official results. There we go. Okay, and we're back. And yeah, we didn't have any shocking discoveries about the Abbess while we were away. So pros are that she's versatile, she soaks good, and she's team friendly. Other people can use her if they need her. Cons that she costs a lot, takes up an ally slot, and you can't have 2 of her in your deck. That's pretty much her in a nutshell. And we are gonna settle
Yeah.
on that really middling 3 VP. So wow, we did that.
And unlike the mass, it's going to be 3 to add her to the pool, and then another 3 whenever you want to add her to the
Yep.
deck, just
Yep.
because she'll follow the standard format, because the masks were weird and kind of lame.
Yeah. The
I mean,
masks.
thematically fun,
They
but kind of
needed they
bad.
needed help. Man, we kind of didn't end on like a bang. After like our heated discussion about masks, Abbas is just like we both just like agree. This is a pretty good card.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Well, I think that
mm,
I was gonna say I think that Pathfinder comparison kind of fits it into perspective because Pathfinder I think is like 3 or 4 on taboo list now,
hmm.
right? XP wise, so she's like in that range. I mean, it's almost like a negative that she takes up an ally slot because then it means you can't have another ally. But then, like for one more resource, you're getting the soak. Like she really justifies the slot and a more versatile use
Yeah,
of that movement. So yeah, she's solid,
yeah,
solid card.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So That's actually it. That's all the cards that are in Carnival of Horrors that you can add to your deck, and will stay in your deck between scenarios if you can get them.
Big if.
Yeah, yeah. So, and like, yeah, we didn't actually. I don't think we really played with that too much. With like the challenge of getting these assets in this one, but like, I don't know. I like if she was just a card that exists, I could see her costing 4. I think like
But you could call in favors, tutor her up, or something like that.
oh, that's not bad. I like that a lot. All right. Well, we didn't get her anyways, so.
I mean, you could like backpack for like the mask, but then what do you do? Like you backpack for
I
the
put on the
mask
mask.
cards. It's like, and then what?
Then I put on the mask.
Backpack up the Gilded Veto because now you can use it
To
for
play
an
your
asset that
backpack
you've already
fast.
played. Yeah, to play your backpack, or to play the next item from your backpack. It's
Oh, actually, hey, maybe that's something. That's actually because that is still not very good. I still don't. We haven't cracked Gilded Volto, and I think we have to stop trying and maybe stop recording.
no more. I hate that card.
It's not very good. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Let us know if you think we miscosted any of these cards. I don't think you did, or you will, because these were like the easiest ones I think to cost. Maybe Medico should have been one more, but well, maybe that's just my own personal bias. We're gonna stop the recording now, and we'll see you next time with. I don't know where this is going to fall in the gameplay loop, but next week on whatever day this comes out, Thursdays, right? That's right. We'll probably be covering Murder at the Excelsior Hotel and its story. So until then, take care and stay out of danger.